No,
So
just
you
jumped in.
just jumped in blindsided.
Just jump in. Just go on. I mean,
Hey guys, before we start, drop a like, follow, and subscribe.
Coming in hard. Welcome to CEO Confessionals, business talk for entrepreneurs, real estate wholesalers, investors, and lenders. From beginners to rising starts to moguls. This is CEO Confessionals with Thomas HIYIL. CEOs confessing their highs and lows, telling you what it takes to be on top.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome to CEO Confessionals. I'm Thomas Howe, and today's guest is Steve Trang from Real Estate Disruptors. Steve, thank you for coming to CEO Confessionals.
thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my honor. So one of the things that everyone knows you, a lot of people within our industry know you because of our podcast and also you being a sales trainer.
hmm
Tell us something that most people don't know about you.
A couple of things that always surprises people is that I grew up listening to Gangster Rap.
Uh-huh.
So I had the NWA cassette tape in sixth grade,
Okay.
the Onyx cassette tape, I think in eighth grade, right? It's a Slam cassette tape. And my favorite show for most of my life was South Park, starting with season 1. Now, I haven't watched TV in like 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
But until I turned off cable, I watched South Park religiously.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned you're into gangster rap. We're about the same age.
Yeah.
I know the late 80s, early 90s, Tupac, Dr. Dre, NWA, Eazy-E.
Yeah.
It's great. Who was your favorite artist?
Man, my favorite, growing up, a lot of it was Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Yeah.
And then after that, I mean, Tupac obviously was really hot. But Eminem, you know, I think Eminem is one of the greatest. And then as a side fact or a tangent, I was inspired by the Cash Money Millionaires.
Uh-huh.
Love those guys, right? With the Bentleys and the Rolls Royce and the sticker and the ice and all that other fun stuff. So if you actually were in my car, you would actually see what I named my car is number 1 stunner.
Really? Serious?
Yeah, in my car. If you were to get my car right now, if you look at it, you know, you got the VIN, and above the VIN is the name, because you name your car in a Tesla.
Yeah.
So the name of my car, because it's, you know, royal blue, it's the number 1 stunner.
So have you ever heard of the famous Chicago rapper Twista?
Of course.
Yeah, he was awesome. He's one of my
Twista's
favorite guys.
great.
Yeah, he's awesome. So fast forward, you listen to the gangster rap area.
Mm-hmm.
Were you wearing Jinkos and all those jeans and cross colors?
No, I was never fashion forward. You know, for me, appearances has never been important. Like image and perception is important, but not the necessarily the presentation. So if you see most days, I actually normally wear like a Stunning Homes blue collar or a black Real Estate Disruptors t-shirt. It's usually what I wear. I actually wore a Max Cash Offers polo today for this. And so like even like my hair sometimes would be kind of overgrown. So like I need a haircut, you know? So how I looked was never important to me. And I think that kind of goes to personality in that as far as, you know, if you look at the disc, as far left or as far bottom as it can be, which means that I don't care what people think. So for that, I never was very fashion forward. As a matter of fact, everything I buy is always from someone else's suggestion. And when I ask for help, I always ask, I want something that's timeless because I don't want to buy anything again soon.
Exactly. It's like me, I have 12 black shirts.
Yeah.
And about 8 of the same pair of jeans.
Yeah. If I find something I like, I'll try to buy multiple of it.
Yeah.
Right. Do the Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg thing.
For me, it was in the military. Wearing a uniform is just so much easier.
Yeah.
Not even think about just, you know, exactly what you wear.
Right.
So that's awesome. You know, you're into the gangster rap era. Then as you move forward, you went to college, like most Asian parents, doctor, engineer, lawyer. Assuming you became an engineer.
Right.
And from there, you left the corporate world and became an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
And at the worst period of the time as a real estate entrepreneur?
In hindsight.
Yeah. So what was your driver to become and take that leap?
Well, I always knew I'm not employable. I was not employable. I mean, I always knew it.
Yeah.
And so from day one, the game plan was, at Intel, it was 7 years to get everything vested. Right, all your stock options vested, RSUs, whatever it was. 7 years was when it vested. On top of that, Intel offered a sabbatical where you get 2-month vacation.
Nice.
Right, on top of your regular vacation. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, 7 years, I'm going to work. And as soon as 7 years is up, taking my sabbatical, everything's vested, and I'm going to start my own business. So I always knew that from day one. It just happened a lot sooner than that.
Okay. As an entrepreneur, was there anything that before you took that step of leap that you want to accomplish?
Was there anything I wanted to accomplish before taking that leap?
Yeah.
You mean as far as like money in the bank account, level of preparedness?
Absolutely. Something like that. Nope.
No. Just jumped in.
Just jumped in blindsided.
Just jump in. Just go on. I mean, as a matter of fact, so Darren Dammy, right, is a friend. He was on the podcast yesterday. He runs television for 50 clients across the country, right? Yeah. And I called him. I said, hey, I'm thinking about expanding to another market. He's like, what markets are you thinking about? I was like, maybe something in Ohio or Oklahoma City. And he says, okay, cool. You have boots on the ground? I was like, what do I need boots on the ground for?
Yeah.
He's like, you're going to just start advertising, figure it out? I was like, yeah. And he was so taken aback by it. And I was like, Darren, am I like the craziest person you talk to? He's like, no, but you're probably the second. I said, oh, okay, well, I'll take that. To which point I took that information, apologized to my team members that helped me run my businesses and my wife, because I knew I had a problem. But if you can shock someone that's a vendor for 50 of the top people in the country who gets to deal with crazy drivers all day, if you could take him aback, then you're definitely extra.
Exactly. Always shock and move forward.
Well, and that kind of goes back to like the podcast, right? Like Real Estate Disruptors. I mean, I went from like on a Saturday, I'm going to start a podcast. Wednesday after that, I announced it on Facebook. I did a Facebook Live. Hey guys, I'm doing a podcast next Wednesday, 2:00. Tune in. Didn't have a name for the show. Didn't know who the guest was. Didn't have a list of questions. Nothing. I just put it on the universe. Tune in 7 days. This time, I'm going to have a show for you. And I did. And it went off really well. But I definitely stress tested a lot of things.
All right. That's perfect. One of the, I guess you're D type. I'm also a very high D. We like to push the boundaries.
Yeah.
Push a little bit more just to see how much we can go.
You don't know what you got until you push it.
Exactly. Have you done that as in your childhood as well?
As a child, no. I was a really good kid. I wasn't straight A's, but it was pretty close. I was able to get a full ride to ASU, and at ASU, I was able to get a fellowship to UC San Diego. Didn't have to pay for college, didn't have to pay for grad school, right? So I always was the well-behaved, follow the rules kind of person. Where the driver showed up was in competition.
Yeah.
I am not athletic. There's no reason for me to be athletic or expect to do well in sports. Zero reasons. But when I played basketball, I gave it all my all. I would get frustrated when I miss a jump shot, right? Totally unreasonable. The reason why I don't golf is because I'm not perfect at it. When I go bowling with my friends, there's no reason to expect to be able to pick up every spare. There's just no reason for it. I don't practice. Never been coached. But I get upset when I miss picking up spares. So that's where the D shows up, is the competition within myself and also in measuring the bar against other people.
So can you give me an example of that?
So I could say, going to, in the engineering college, you always, see how they did in that test, or how'd you do on that test? What score did you get? In math in high school, it was always who could finish the test the fastest. It wasn't even who got the highest score. It was who could finish the test the fastest, right? And like we were going to get an A, right? Me and my friends, we were going to get A's. It was who can get the test turned in the fastest. So there's that. right now, we talk about real world application. I put on Bigger Pockets just a couple of weeks ago. I was like, I want to be known as the number one sales trainer in the country. And so I'm going to be doing a podcast next week. I'm going to be making that announcement there as well. But beforehand, I was doing some research this morning. Like, who are the most recognized sales trainers in the country right now? And unfortunately, it's Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
And so I think he has no reason to be that guy. He sucks, but he's the guy. And so for me, I am consistently putting out there, like, that's the target. That's who I'm going for. Sounds arrogant and cocky, probably. But I think that's that's the driver side of us.
And I personally have been told, like, I come out very arrogant, very cocky, or I don't feel that way. I'm like, no, I'm just stating the facts. Here it is. This is what I've accomplished. This is what I've done, and I'm pushing harder. And a lot of people are like, dude, you've done so much. And in my mind, I haven't done enough.
Yeah. So to the confidence point, I've always been irrationally confident in doing things that I should not be confident in doing. Always had that within me. But this goes back to, that famous Apple commercial, right? The ones that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones that do. Why is that? Having this ego, right? And it's called what it is. It's an ego. But having an ego is what it requires to deal with all the things that suck, right? Things that we deal with sucks. We get punched in the mouth all the time. People quit. People will lie to you, whatever. All sorts of challenges. You're expecting this account to close, doesn't close. It's going to change your business. All these things happen, and we get dealt with adversity day in and day out.
Yeah.
And if you don't have an ego, it will crush you. It will destroy you if you don't have this high self-worth, self-confident ego. So ego, for the most part, sucks. It's also what it takes. There's a reason why every president in the United States has a high D. Every CEO is also a psychopath. It's what it takes.
Yeah. I find that pretty interesting because, I think I've opened a little bit to you. I had a setback, but yet when I had that setback, I'm like, okay, I got to double down. I'm pushing forward.
Right.
No matter what. And I've left my comfort zone of, which is really operations, which I'm going to be egotistical. I think I'm great at it.
You're excellent at it.
Yeah.
We compared notes. You're excellent at it.
Yeah. And now I'm stepping into a world of sales. So what did I do? Who's the best sales trainer I know? I'm not going to toot your own horn, but all right, I'm going with Steve. Boom. He merely made the decision right away. It was already in. It was already in the bag.
Right.
And and I've actually been studying significantly a lot on the sales and additional sales, and being pretty good at it. And including my own horn, I listened to a conversation. I really don't praise myself enough. Now I'm starting to.
Yeah.
All right. And I think that's the high D side. It's like, okay, I could do better.
Right. You're always pushing for more.
Yeah.
It's never enough. But also, you can be very confident while you're doing it. It's a weird balance.
Yeah. So now, okay, let's circle back. You're a new entrepreneur now. Okay. As you jumped in, you had many setbacks.
Multiple setbacks.
And
so
as you move forward, what was the aha moment that you've seen? Okay, I'm going to make this work.
The aha moment was really when I quit Intel in 2007, right? Quit May of 2007. When I quit, they said, hey, if anything ever happens, you can always come back. Yeah. And that was in my back pocket. And that was a curse, right? Because I had a safety net. And so for me, it was obviously damaging my marriage. Yeah. Right. I was failing. I sucked. Right. I mean, let's just be honest. I was a terrible realtor. Right. I didn't know, like, the stuff that we talk about on the podcast, that stuff wasn't available back then. Right. So I sucked in many components, including marketing, sales, follow-up, operate, all of it. Right. And so as part of that sucking, in my first calendar year, from January to December, my expenses exceeded my revenue by $50,000. So I reported a negative 50,000, right, on my 1040.
Yeah.
And so obviously with all this failure, it was very damaging on our marriage. And so I went, my wife's like, look, you need to go get a job. Like, this isn't working. You need to get a job. And so I went back to Intel in 2009.
Wow.
After that, debacle. And they're like, Steve, we want to hire you back. Like, we want to have you back. We pushed we opened every door. Like, we did everything we could. But, in 2009, everyone was hurting. They're like, we literally cannot open a spot for you. So sorry.
Wow.
And that was what I needed to jumpstart. It's like, so as far as the crystallization, like the visualization of knowing what I need to do, the knowing now that there's nowhere to go, that was the aha moment.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And as you may know, one of the reasons why I started this podcast back up, a lot of it was triggered by you. During our meeting, you're like, why did you stop?
Yeah.
And I went back, why did I stop? And one of the things, that's one of my main motives, just, all right, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Forward. And one thing about a lot of entrepreneurs, we have the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell me a period of time when you felt very low as an entrepreneur, and that's it, you felt very low?
Well, it was that time, right? I mean, it was a wife that was depending on me. Like after that moment, it was been steady improvement since then. But that was the time, right? Like having to go back to a company that you quit, that begged you not to leave, right? When they asked me not to quit, it's like, I submitted my notice. They're like, well, what can we do to keep you? I was like, and I was making at that time $85,000 a year.
Yeah.
They're like, what would it take for us to keep you? It's like, I don't know, like maybe $200,000 a year, right? Like that's what I told them, right? So that was what I left.
Yeah.
And to come crawling back, right? I actually still have nightmares every once in a while about it, like having like an interview, like going back to beg for my job back, right? Like every once in a while, like every, I don't know, 6-8 months, kind of like you have that nightmare of you like not studying for that test or not knowing where your test is, that anxiety. So every once in a while I have that nightmare of like, interviewing for a job, which is crazy, right? Like what kind of nightmare is that? But that's what I have. But like it was that time, and then watching my wife having to get a second job to support her man. Like my job as a man, right? Not to be sexist, it's just traditional way it is, right? Especially both of us coming, like my wife and I both coming from Asian backgrounds. Like my job is to take care of her. She's working 2 jobs to take care of me so I can chase my dream. So that was the low point for sure.
So as being Asian myself, East Asian, South Asian, there's a lot of family pressure outside your wife. Your wife definitely supported you. What about from your parents, your siblings, your wife's family? How was that like?
My wife's family has always been supportive from day one. They've been amazing. My parents have been completely supportive. They try to talk me out of it, of course. They're like, you did all this, you've got this master's degree and this and that. Like, why would you quit? So, but yeah, as far as family pressure goes, like it's been nothing but 100% from my side of the family, her side of the family, my brothers. I don't have any complaint whatsoever from the family side. I think really fortunate in that component because I know like one of the biggest challenges for a lot of people trying to step out and chase their dream is everyone, their friends and family saying you're crazy, right? Like, don't do that. Why would you do that? Why would you jeopardize, right? So I got a lot of that. Really all I got, and this wasn't naysaying, really what I got was like, I wish I could do that too. I wish I could take that jump, right? But either, I'm married, I've got kids, I got too many responsibilities. I can't afford to take that risk. So it wasn't don't do it. It was really more like, man, I wish I could do that too. It was very interesting.
See, I kind of find that as those are mainly putting objections and defeating thoughts before you even take the action.
Yeah.
I myself had a very, very great career. Great, where the money was very nice, put it that way.
Right.
And it was very difficult leaving that position. I loved it. I have a great team. I'm always welcome back, just like you. I actually had a talk with one of my mentors about what's a couple months ago. He said, "Thomas, you're always welcome back. Just let me know."
Yeah.
Then I look at the impact it had on my family. I remember my daughter was 6 months old. I picked her up, and she was crying hysterically. And my wife told me, "Your daughter doesn't even recognize you because you're always gone."
Yeah.
And that's the world of consulting. You're always gone,
Mm-hmm.
especially high level consulting.
Right.
Yeah. And that was my wake up call that I needed to do something different. After I left the firm, for the first 6 months, or even a year, I didn't do anything. I just hung out, spent time with family.
That's awesome.
Texas, yeah. And then I realized, okay, I got to get the gear balling. So I was always interested in real estate, so I started moving towards that. As you left and you're growing your business, what was the biggest, I would say, momentum and milestone for you to push harder?
I wouldn't say there's one thing that made me push harder, but there was one moment that the metaphoric light bulb went off. And this is when I first got into coaching. And when I first signed up for a coach, it was the first time where I knew what a business owner was.
Yeah.
I thought I had a business, thought I was a business owner. No, I was just a really highly paid employee.
Yeah.
All right. So it was, and I'd read the E-Myth, I'd read these other books. I was aware that I was not a good business owner. Didn't realize how bad I was until I hired a coach who could point out all of my flaws, all the things that I was doing wrong, all the stupid mistakes or the wasted time. So as far as the biggest enlightening or the biggest momentum changing was actually hiring a coach.
Okay.
And I'll tell people all the time, hire a coach. And it sounds self-serving, but man, I wasted a lot of time without having a coach. 4 years of my life.
It's interesting. Right before this podcast, like literally about 45 minutes ago, my wife has told me, like, okay, you've been doing this for 5 years. This is where you're at. What do you kind of look back and what do you feel? I'm like, I wish I hired a coach earlier. Exact same conversation.
Yeah.
I wish I hired someone because I wasted so much time. Like, I could go on YouTube. I could learn this.
You could learn it.
Yeah, you could. But
YouTube doesn't tell you you're being stupid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I dropped a significant amount of capital in a coaching program. And I could say the learning curve on that just sped up. And coming from the consulting world, I seen a lot of the flaws of that business had. And I was like, okay, let me just restructure everything and made it a lot more efficient based on my experience. And you being an engineer, one of the things you mentioned is like you do a lot of things systematically.
Mm-hmm.
Will you do that in your business as well? Everything's systematic. You plan ahead and execute, or do you just execute?
No, I do not plan ahead. I am not a planner.
Okay.
I'm a doer. And it's interesting because I'm a weirdo, right? Like as far as the disc goes, I'm a D and an S, right? On a predictive index, I'm an individualist. So my personality is very unique. We're all unique, right? We're all special, but my personality, there's way fewer people that are a D and an S.
Yeah.
And so I'm systematic in how I approach things, but I'm also willing to just throw everything away and start over. That's the D, right? And so for me, I am systematic as far as like I want to make sure I have people in place. I want to have, I want to know how to do things at a high level, but I don't need to know everything. I just want to have a big picture, and we can fit like 3 or 4 boxes. If I know like 3 or 4 boxes that I need to be there, then that's good enough. We'll figure out the rest later on, right? I just need like 65% visibility, and I'm going full speed. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah. Oh, one of the things like I noticed, like especially staff, other people, they have a perception that you have everything put together. And I can tell you right now, as an entrepreneur, you're always going through struggles, frustrations, uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about that right now, where you're feeling, you're struggling, you're frustrated, what kind of uncertainty you're feeling at this moment right now?
So the frustration I had 2 weeks ago was I had too much free time. And so like, we need this certain amount of chaos, right? Where like, I'm kind of like all over the place. I need that in my life. And I was actually on an accountability call. Like I got my best friend, he's my accountability coach. He sold his company for like $20 million. And we talk once a month. And I actually share with him, I was like, I'm freaking out right now. He's like, why are you freaking out? I was like, I have too much free time. So he's like, don't worry about it. I know you'll figure out a way to screw that up. And he's right, I have.
Yeah.
But for me, for a short period of time, like everything was kind of too buttoned up. So what do we do? This is when I called Darren. Hey, I need to open another market. All right. Talk to my sales team or talk to my media team. We're starting a second podcast. And then, and we're using that second podcast to launch a third product. So that's, I don't know. I mean, that might be too perfect of an answer. I could say like the challenges we have is, in general, is always going to be the same. It never goes away. It's the people. If you look at it, Darren Hardy, I think is quoting someone else, but we are not logical beings that have emotions. We are emotional beings that have the ability to think.
Yeah.
And so on any given day, right, we have a large organization. On any given day, someone's going crazy. And so we deal with those fires every once in a while.
And that's one of the things, like coming from the consulting world, we looked at 4 major factors: data, processes, technology, and people.
Mm-hmm.
When you're building a company, you look at the technology behind it, the processes, and also the data, the metrics of what's going. And lastly, you look at the people. But as you're running a business, the most important thing is the people. Everything else really doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
As you're facing the challenges of people, what keeps you up at night with the people? Or what keeps you up at night with the business?
So my whole life I've always been a really easy sleeper, so nothing keeps me up.
Mm-hmm.
But I could tell you things that wake me up early.
Yeah.
Things that wake me up early are new opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we're going to do this. Oh, we're going to do that. Like, I can't wait to start this. Right. That's where I'm the kid, for Christmas morning. It's like, oh man, we're going to do this. This is gonna be awesome. So, again, not the answer as far as the confessionals go. But I mean, truth be told, I would say the challenges of an entrepreneur, is true for a lot of other entrepreneurs as well, is really more the work-life balance. And I love to believe that I've got the work-life balance thing figured out. I would love to believe that. But there are times where my wife reminds me that I don't. Right. And I time block for family, and I'm home, taking kids to piano and all the other stuff, but still I could do better. And so, we had an argument 3-4 weeks ago. I can't remember what the argument was about now, but it was like, I'm here. I'm doing like everything I'm supposed to be doing. What could you possibly be upset about right now? But then you look back, it's like, oh, I screwed that up too. So I don't know the answer to the question, but I think one of the things that's really difficult is being an entrepreneur is really hard. And I think what's understated or not spoken about enough is it's even harder to be married to an entrepreneur.
Yeah, it's definitely a support system that you have to have. I feel the pain because I hear what you're saying is I could definitely relate to that because I have a wife and a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I'm there, she says I'm not there.
Right.
Do you go through that same motion as well? Your wife's like, you're physically there, but she's like, you're not really there.
I don't anymore. I used to a lot. So I'm more conscious about not being on my device as much, but I still am. So I don't get that complaint from my wife. She's good with it. She's good with my level of presence. My daughters, on the other hand, reminding me how much time I'm on. I'm on the phone. Like, Dad, every time I see you, you're on Instagram.
Yeah. Oh man. So your daughters, you mentioned like they are pretty much using a lot of the sales tactics that you used on them.
They are. It's crazy.
How does that make you feel now?
See what you did there. It's great because the coolest thing about being an entrepreneur, it's not about the money. It's not about your success. That's not the coolest thing. It's cool. It's awesome. But that's not the coolest thing. What I did not know going in was being an entrepreneur was all the cool things you get to learn that you get to pass on to your kids. Yeah. And so, as an entrepreneur or as an engineer, when I worked at Intel, they said, Steve, we want you to go to this workshop, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? This is me being cocky. It's like, why do I need that? I'm here. I already made it. Like, why do I already went to grad school. I don't need any more education. Yeah. Right. That was my mindset. And I wasn't that coachable. Right. Being an entrepreneur, you need to be constantly learning. You need to be growing. And so all the books I've read, listened to, all the coaching programs I've gone through, seminars, workshops, everything I've gone through, I get to pass on to my kids. And so watching them do it and apply it, I know that they're going to have such an unfair advantage when they grow up. I feel bad for whoever marries my daughters. But like yesterday or a couple of days ago, we were in a car and, you've got a daughter. One of the kids, the questions kids will ask you over and over again, why? And my daughter, to her credit, she's 4. She asked me a question, answered it. Her response was, for what? For what? For what? And it's a completely different conversation. She's asking open-ended questions that can go on forever.
Absolutely. I get completely relate and the frustrations, the joys of being an entrepreneur, because I could see that with my daughter as well. And I'm passing on things that I didn't realize I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. Even like my bad habits, she's picking that up.
Well, what's funny is like I have these conversations, right? I'm 40 something. Yeah. My daughters aren't 10 yet. And I'll have a conversation with them. We're talking about like multitasking versus single tasking or whatever. Some psychological stuff, projecting, stuff like that. Right. And my wife would look at me and she's like, I didn't learn this stuff until I was in the 30s. Right. Mm-hmm. We're talking about red personalities, blue personalities, how you got to respond. If this is how they're acting, then this is probably what they are. And if that's what they are, then this is how you need to approach this person. And we're having these conversations at the dinner table, right? Yeah. My wife's like, I didn't learn this until I started working at a company that involves sales.
Yeah. And sales itself is a unique beast. There are some people that are natural at sales. They just have that personality. One of the things that I also talked about my wife is like, in sales, it could be learned. There's natural talent to it, but there's also, if you learn it and practice it, you're going to be probably a lot more effective than the person that's natural at it. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I think anyone can be a trained salesperson. I think anyone can be good at sales. I used to think you need it. You need that magic sauce. I used to believe that. I no longer believe that. I believe anyone can be a trained salesperson. Anyone can be a highly effective, performing, high performance salesperson. With that being said, there are certain people still that are naturally gifted. Yes. That with the right training could be the best, right? I mean, you kind of see this, Pace Morby. Like the guy is the best salesperson I've ever witnessed, right? He's got natural talent. He's been coached. He's got the work ethic, and he's coachable, right? Yeah. That's Michael Jordan. So I think that, and I'm not any of those things, right? I'm not naturally talented in sales. I sucked at sales for a very long time, but I was able to acquire it, learn it, and apply it because I'm a student, right? So I think that anyone can learn sales so long as they're coachable. They have the desire to get better. I think you can, like, if you look at a lot of the things we hire for, we don't hire for knowledge. It's nice. We don't hire for necessarily skills. because you can teach the skills. Really what we're hiring for is behavior and attitude. Are you coachable? And that's the only reason why we care if people go to college. That's the only reason why we care if people go to college. I don't give a crap about your degree.
No.
Like, were you able to learn? That's it, right? I can teach you everything else. I just need to know that you're able to learn. That being said, we don't care about resumes, so we don't even know if they're capable to learn until they come into the office.
And that's one thing. When I had brand new staff, when I was in corporate America, some guys, especially in DC, super talented, went to Ivy League schools, came in, and it was like the arrogance was there. I was like, no, dude, I know what you learned in school, but this is how it's done in the real world. Follow my guidance. I will not set you up for failure. And I actually have one of my guys that followed me to the T, and he rose up the ranks at a rapid rate because, number one, he's coachable. Number one, he actually applies and he listens.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes you far in life.
Way further.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And you mentioned you've done a lot of mentorships and coaching. In the past few years, if you could do anything different, what would you do?
If I could, starting over, if I could have done anything differently, it would have been sales training.
Yeah.
From the get-go. Because it applies in so many places, not just in selling. It applies in marriage. I read this book a while ago, How to Talk So Your Kids Will Listen, How to Listen So Your Kids Will Talk. And it was a great book, fantastic book. I recommend it to so many people. And then I learned sales. It's like, this is just sales. We're just selling our kids, right? All we're doing is mirroring, reflecting, taking what they said, repeating it back to them. Like, this genius book was just sales psychology. So dealing with your wife, right? A long time ago, if my wife said, I don't have anything to wear, me being the problem solver, go in the closet, like, I see all this clothes. What do you mean you have nothing to wear? Now I don't have anything to wear. Now I know what it means. Yeah. But if I didn't, I can say, interesting. When you say you don't have anything to wear, can you explain or can you share with me what that means? I'm confused. You don't have any clothes to wear? Yeah. And then we're extracting what that really meant. Right? So learning sales would apply in so many places where I would definitely have fewer arguments and solved a lot more problems earlier.
Now, knowing sales, your wife knows you know sales.
Yeah. So it's not as effective anymore.
Not as effective.
But it's fine. Because the other thing too is she knows I'm trying though, right? Because, that old adage, seek first to understand and then to be understood. That's what we're doing in sales. So she understands I'm using tactics, but she also understands I'm using the tactics to try to understand what she's saying.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that it's amazing how sales, just your professional goals, easily translates to your personal life, especially in sales.
Yeah, directly.
Now, as you're becoming a seasoned sales coach, who do you look for advice to or mentorship?
Not unfortunately, but at this moment, it's peers. I'm in the Collective Genius Mastermind. I've talked about that. So I have multiple guys destroying me, right? Murdering me, right? And I can always call them. It's like, here's what I'm dealing with. Can you help me out? So I don't have as many different coaches, but I have multiple resources. Actually, let me take a step back. There is one guy I look up to as a coach. Just unfortunately for him, I don't pay him. It's Gary Harper.
Okay.
Right? So, hey, Gary, I'm dealing with a situation. What do you think? So in a way, he is my coach.
Yeah.
But I don't pay him like he's my coach.
Well, it could be anyone that's in your life that's your advisor. Like, I personally have mentors from my college mentor. I still talk to nearly 20 years now. He's transformed my life. And I have mentors when I was in the military as well as my corporate job who I still talk to today. It's like those are pivotal people in my life that changed and developed me for who I am. Are those figures in your life there as well?
Yeah. So for people, right? And like I mentioned, it's Gary Harper.
Yeah.
Right. For social media, it's Kong and Ryan.
Yeah.
For marketing, it just depends on what kind of marketing we're talking about. Jason Lewis is someone I look up to tremendously. Right. Mm-hmm. So for marketing, I might be calling him. For disposition, I'm calling Jamil. Like, well,
yeah.
Right. So the really cool thing with my Rolodex today, and I'm incredibly blessed, incredibly fortunate, is that these very specific challenges that I'm having, there's an expert in my world that I can pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
Not like someone pretty good. Like there's an expert I can call for every single challenge I have. Incredibly blessed.
Yeah, I could say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
All right, as we move on, any words of wisdom that you'll provide to our listeners?
Man, if you made it this far to put up with what we're talking about, I think for someone that's aspiring, I say this as a joke a lot, but I really mean it. Is that running a business, especially in a sales-oriented business, is I've said, be prepared to die a little bit on the inside every day.
Yeah.
Because you have to get callous to make it in this business, right? Like I said in the beginning, people will disappoint you, they'll let you down, they'll lie to you, cheat on you, whatever. And it just happens because we're humans. We're people. We're not perfect, right? But man, it's all worth it. I would not trade my life. Well, I mean, there's a few people I guess I would trade my life for. Elon's got it pretty good.
Yeah.
There's a few people, right? But for the most part, I am living the best life. Like if you were to talk to me when I was 15 and 20, it's like, here's the life you're going to have. I'd be like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that's the advice I would give. Like, it's going to suck a lot. There's going to be a lot of adversity. There are going to be days like, why the hell am I doing this to myself? Right. I mean, there are days where I wake up at 5 a.m. to go exercise. Like, why am I doing this to myself? Mm-hmm. But it's all worth it.
And that's where in the military, we used to say, embrace the suck.
Yeah. Was that a military term?
Yeah.
See, I always heard that from Brandon Burchard. I had no idea that was a military term.
Yeah. Embrace the suck.
Yeah.
That's because we would go carry 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 pounds on our back for 12 miles up and down hills with 2-3 hours of sleep. And everyone is just miserable. They're like, dude, just embrace the suck.
Yeah.
That's it. And that just keeps you going. And that's one thing about entrepreneurs. As you see a group of entrepreneurs together, they tend to push each other even harder. And it's that competitive edge.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I would advise also our guys, our listeners. As an entrepreneur, it's a struggle. It's tough. But all in all, it's worth it.
100%.
All right. Steve, thanks for coming on. And
thank you.
Appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. It was awesome. Thank you so much.